Well, welcome everyone to our first general meeting of 2022, and happy 2022 to all of you. May you stay safe and healthy this year. I now want to introduce Anne Marie Spatteru, our Vice President of Programs, and thank her for organizing such great speakers like today's guests for our general meetings this year. So Anne Marie, thank you.
Thank you, Helene. You're welcome. It's been my great pleasure to help organizing these programs, and it's with great pleasure today that I introduce Dana Katz, my friend from Women in Philanthropy, I guess, and Dr. Joe, and they will talk to us about this amazing work that Operation Mend does and has been doing since 2007, I guess, in support of our wounded warriors and their families. Dana and Dr. Joe will make a presentation first, and then it will be followed by our usual Q&A. So if you have any questions, please make sure to write them into the chat, and Marianne and Fifi will manage the chat for us and let me know what questions to ask. So Dana, it's yours.
Thank you so much, Anne Marie. It is such an honor to be invited to speak to this group. Especially at the beginning of the new year, because I think we've all been through a lot and we're very hopeful that this year is going to be different. And at Operation Mend, we are really planning for quite a big year. So it's a perfect time for us to talk to you all. So I'm Dana Katz. I've been involved with Operation Mend since it was started in 2007 by my in-laws, Ron and Maddie Katz. Some of you know Maddie or knew Maddie from her work in Women in Philanthropy and other areas in the university. They started Operation Mend in response to the heightened wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. They were just inundated, as we all were at that time, with photos in the news of servicemen and women who were being horrifically injured. And because they were so deeply entrenched in UCLA and UCLA Health, they had this idea, it was really Maddie's idea, that we should bring all of the amazing specialty services at UCLA to the military and form a partnership and help the military take care of their most severely ill and injured service members. Their initial thought was that it should be a program for facial reconstruction, because that's what we were seeing in the newspapers every day, were these men and women who've been blown up. And UCLA beautifully jumped on board when they were first asked. The medical community said, yes, we're in. And they went with Ron and Maddie down to Brooke Army Medical Center in Texas, where the most severely injured warriors were being treated. And they formed a partnership. It's amazing how it's grown. I think my mother-in-law, who passed away in 2009, would be astonished. But what began as a program for facial reconstruction, where we were bringing men and women from all over the country to UCLA to receive care along with their families, evolved. Of course, if you've been blown up in the line of duty, or which includes in training stateside, it wasn't just your face that was injured, it's your whole body, it's your spirit, it's everything. And so over the course of time, we went from treating severe facial injuries that needed reconstruction to taking care of the whole body and the spirit and the brain. So in 2012, we formed a partnership with the Army to start doing neurodiagnostics and treatment planning for traumatic brain injury. And in 2016, we stood up an intensive treatment program for post-traumatic stress disorder, which is on campus at UCLA for 3 weeks, and then at home for 3 weeks. We've been doing that for over 5 years. With wonderful outcomes. We treat caregivers alongside their veterans. We're the only program in the nation that does that. And Dr. Joe will tell you a little bit more about what we've just started. But as a highlight, I'll just say that in November last year, 2021, we launched a pilot of an intensive treatment program for traumatic brain injury. And in December, we launched a intensive program for post-traumatic stress disorder, where substance use is an issue. So it's a long name. It's like the substance use disorder program, the intensive treatment program for PTSD. So it's a super long name. But we've got a lot of things, a lot of needs we're trying to meet. in the community of military service members, veterans, and their families. We'll tell you a lot more about it. We have a very robust volunteer program. Our community is heavily committed to the program. But just to give you a feel for the program, we have a short video that we're going to play. We'll cue it up, and then Dr. Sornborger and I will answer questions. Dr. Sornborger will talk more about the nitty-gritty of the program. So if you don't mind, Anne-Marie, we can start the video.
The reason I like abstract art is because it just lets the mind float. There's no boundaries, there's no strictness to it. You can just be what it is. The heaviness is lifted off me when I'm painting.
When a soldier is overseas for many years, after a long amount of time, they forget how to communicate with family, and family forgets how to communicate with them.
One of my best friends was killed just before I retired, and I felt something inside me wasn't the same. I feel it happening, but I didn't know how to stop it.
When we got to Operation Mend and I started reading about what the program did, I said, this is that piece of the puzzle that we've been missing.
UCLA Operation Mend.
It's called Operation Mend.
Operation Mend.
Operation Mend.
Operation Mend.
It's an amazing program that provides reconstructive surgery to
Severely injured and disfigured veterans.
Rebuilding bodies and souls.
We have put together truly an elite system to take care of these wounded service members, to take care of their psychological injuries, their physical injuries, and each physician, each surgeon is handpicked to be not only the best in their field, but somebody that cares, somebody that understands what the service member has gone through.
All of these physicians and surgeons who had all of these talents for reconstructing faces, it's never been shared with the military.
It was natural for us to include a holistic approach when we created the intensive treatment program. We use an evidence-based model to treat post-traumatic stress disorder. And we are the only program in the country that includes the caregiver as a 100% participant.
We felt like the healing process could take place here. I was able to work with other caregivers and professionals and heal in a way that I had never been able to heal myself.
Myself being in the Marine Corps, and I need support. I don't have a problem picking up the radio and calling in for fire. Yet when I get out of the Marine Corps, that seems to be an issue.
I left the Army on about a half a dozen medications, but I put my foot down eventually and said, better living through chemistry isn't working for me. And so I stopped taking them all. But then reality was here. My head was as clear as it's ever going to be, and I was in pain. Miserable pain.
Dancing has always been something that I loved. Dancing allowed me to escape whatever darkness I had floating around me. I was stationed in Fallujah. It was my job to pack down women and children at security points throughout the city. We worked alongside with infantry, which at the time was only men. We weren't allowed to stay with them overnight. On the way back to base, a suicide bomber had hit my 7-ton truck.
The wounds of war are different right now. We have this incredible protective gear, so a lot of times we're seeing really devastating injuries that may not have been seen at a different time, at a different war, because those injuries, they would never have survived it.
One of the gifts of Operation Mend is that we do individualize the care. The focus is to treat moderate to severe post-traumatic stress disorder. What we saw was that one of the biggest gaps in care was treating their psychological injury that they sustained as a wound of war.
Being a Marine, it's instilled to always take charge of what's going on of the situation, and the mission was to get better at that time.
Octavio is a strong personality, a strong individual. He was an early patient in the program. Seeing the ramifications of the work that we put in the treatment and seeing how it benefited his life going forward, we knew we were on the right track.
We have integrative medicine sessions that include art therapy and Qigong, which is a meditative movement.
I took that back to North Carolina with me and started doing yoga. I wish I started that a long time ago.
Everything is a team effort. And that aspect has been really carried over into the sports that my son and I interact with. We help one another, and it's just so cool to have that father-son bond.
When a woman has a scar, it's a lot different than from a man. When a man has a scar, it's a trophy, and for a woman, it's more devastating. They were able to reduce the scarring and fill in the area. I'm able to feel pretty, feel more of who I remembered I used to be. So Operation Mend was able to help me feel more confident.
Once the external scars and injuries heal, then you see that the internal ones start to heal as well. And then you see them back and their personality is completely changed. And I call it the blossoming because we can see it. We can see how different they look, how outgoing they are, how personable they are. That's my very favorite part of Operation Mend.
Operation Mend is great for the art or the couples counseling, the individual counseling, the physical side of the house.
It's that combination that makes us so unique and worthwhile.
It's just so beautiful to come in and understand that you're going to be embraced fully. It's become a family, it's love.
That reconnection from coming out of Operation Mend here has really helped my relationship with not just my wife, but my girls. It can't get any better.
I can't overemphasize that they saved my life. They did.
Operation Mend is a pathway to rehabilitation of the body and spirit of wounded warriors.
There's a lineup of people waiting for these services, and everyone in those lines needs to be accommodated. We have to do our share.
Operation Mend is the best thing that could ever happen to me.
Operation Mend is family.
Operation Mend has been a lifesaver.
They allowed me to be who I am today.
Operation Mend is a fresh breath of air.
Operation Mend is an elite unit. How's that?
Thank you for your attention to the video. We did that video a few years ago, and a lot of things changed so quickly in our program, but the essence of the program is the same. We're about knocking down barriers to care, providing a place for warriors to receive care that they may not be able to receive anywhere else, to do it with their family, and to do it at no cost. So we bring the warriors, their family, from wherever they are. We have a robust social work team and just a wonderful group of people. And I'm grateful that I get to work with these folks every day, because they really are making the lives of these men and women livable again. So I'm going to pass it to Joe just to talk a little bit more about the network that we're a part of, and she can answer questions about the more technical questions about our evidence-based program and statistics and everything else. She's our executive director, and we're so lucky to have her. She's been with us since 2009, and we couldn't be where we are without her. So Dr. Jo Sornborger, you're up.
Thank you, Dana. It truly is an honor to speak to you all today, and I'm so moved by our own video. It's been a while since I've seen it, and those men and women on that video, I can't express what it took for them to be able to sit in front of a camera and tell their story, even though it was only a snippet. One of those warriors was shot in the head twice, and he's able to embrace life And that is a miracle to us, and we never take that lightly. So just to give you a little bit of context, since 9/11, there's about over 4 million warriors. 2.5 of those million were post 9/11 only. The other warriors were with pre 9/11. And for us, we actually just had our 730th warrior come through our door, figuratively speaking, of course. And just also to give you context, in the military right now, there's about 15 to 17% of warriors are females. That the military actually expects that to change over the next 20 years. They expect there to be tens of thousands of more females as part of the military. And we've had about 15% of our females or of our warriors are females. So it's been a phenomenal experience for us as Operation Mend to be able to serve both men and women in our program. And those with, we actually have some trans women. So it has been just such an honor. In our intensive treatment program, as Dana mentioned, our focus originally was our physical injury. And like we said, and our warriors in the video, it was clear to us from day one that along with the physical injury was a psychological injury. We didn't know how much of a psychological injury was impacted at that time, but we wanted to make sure that we had our finger on the pulse of our warriors. So we started providing behavioral health screeners so we could really see how is the family doing. And from there, it was just so natural for us to do more advanced diagnostics because we were seeing a lot of traumatic brain injury. Although at that time, we didn't have a treatment program for mental health, nor did we have a treatment program for traumatic brain injury. We serve about 80% of our warriors come from outside the state of California. So our goal was to connect them back to services in their own community. There are very few treatment programs that focus solely on traumatic brain injury. And it absolutely was a dream come true for me to make sure that we were able to actually treat our warriors with traumatic brain injury. And as you all know and have seen in the news, both with prescription drug as well as illicit drugs, substance use is a huge issue with our veterans. And so it was very natural for us to work to make sure that we had an intensive treatment program focused on PTSD and substance use disorder. So we've done quite a bit in spite of COVID. We have served over 300 warriors in our intensive treatment program, and 179 of those have been caregivers, which is a very significant part of our program. The essence of Operation Mend is family, and it made absolute sense to us to include the caregiver as 100% participant in our intensive treatment program. So what is our vision for the next 2 years? Well, we've partnered with the Wounded Warrior Project, and in 2016, we started working with them and 3 other academic medical centers, Rush University, Emory, and Mass General, to put together a warrior care network. What does that mean? That means that we have pretty much are able strategically to serve warriors across the United States. And we have been working with the Wounded Warrior Project, as I said, since 2016. And our goal is to serve over 500 warriors a year between now and 2023. That relationship with the Wounded Warrior Project, they are one of our primary funders, and it really has allowed us to be able to pilot some of these new programs in our intensive treatment program, as well as provide some additional support to our surgical patients. We're really looking to create more of a robust research infrastructure, so we can really move the needle forward, both in our academic medical center as well as the veterans at large. So I'm open to questions if anyone has any specific questions they'd like to ask.
Now, before, if you don't mind, before we do that, I just want to just talk a little bit about our volunteer program, because part of the beauty of getting to be in front of all of you today is just to let you know that for you or your family members or other people you know on campus who may have interests in veteran health and well-being and want to volunteer, every single one of our patients, when they come to Los Angeles, is matched with a local buddy. We call them buddies. It's called the buddy program. And the buddies here are carefully matched based on common interests between the local person and the military service member and his or her family, so that we know they'll have something to talk about at the get-go. But the primary point is that the buddy family provides social support. Coming to LA in itself is an intimidating prospect. Most of our patients have not been here. It's a huge environment. It's a huge health system, very frightening to think about navigating it on your own. And, you know, while the UCLA team, our team at Operation Mend, does all that navigation for them, that we book the flights, we pick up at the airport, we take our patients to every single appointment they go to, we make sure they're not alone. Socially, we don't want them to be alone either. And so we want them to have somebody here in Los Angeles who is going to be their friend with no judgment, no needs of their own. They're just there to support the warrior. So bringing over meals or sending over meals when it's not COVID time, having them over, taking them for some sightseeing, just being someone who checks in and say, hey, just checking in on you. How did everything go today? Do you need anything? That means a lot. I think a lot of our warriors feel deep down inside that people don't really care about them. And when they come to Los Angeles, we show them that, you know, people really do care about our wounded military servicemen and women and our veterans, and they want to do something to help. And just learning that or feeling that makes a difference to our warriors and how they feel about themselves and about their families. So it's a wonderful program for patients who are struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder. Interacting with a buddy family helps them practice the skills they're learning in the clinic to re-engage with people. You know, learn that they actually can make a friend again, that they can go out into the community, that they can go for a walk and have somebody at their side who's going to have their back, really, and just, you know, taking a warrior to a basketball game. Of course, not right now, but normally, and giving them the opportunity to be in a stadium with 13,000 people, something they never thought would ever happen for them again, and see how it feels. If it doesn't feel good, their buddy could just take them back to Tiverton House, where all of our patients stay on campus. So, you know, it's a really wonderful way to interact and give back to our service members. So if you are interested at all in volunteering, or you know somebody who'd like to volunteer, or you know of a military service member in your family or a veteran in your family who's struggling with physical or psychological wounds from their service post 9/11, call us. We would love to talk to you. And now I would say, if you know, we can take questions, any questions.
Yeah, there's a follow-up question. Actually, you addressed that Marianne wanted to know where they stay when they are in town, and you said Tiverton House. Can you? Some people might not be familiar with Tiverton House. Can you say what it is?
Sure. So right at the corner of Tiverton and LeConte, there's a 100-room hotel that is operated by the health system. It's where all of our patients stay. It's a lovely, lovely jewel right in Westwood.
And what's the average length of the patient's stay? I mean, it's hard to describe because I'm sure they have different needs. But
well, if it's a physical injury, they come out for evaluation, and then that's a couple of days, and then we create a treatment plan for them. And if they're coming out for a surgical procedure, it's anywhere from 1 week to 30 days. With our psychological health program, the intensive treatment program is 3 weeks on site at UCLA, And then when they go home, there's 3 weeks of transition over video conferencing.
So it can be quite extensive.
Yes, it's definitely a time commitment.
I have a follow-up question for Dana on the buddies program. Do you encourage other military personnel to be buddies, or you would prefer that they're civilians?
They do not need to be civilians. If somebody sincerely wants to volunteer in our program, we'll find a good fit for them in our program. And somebody's active duty, we have some active duty. We've got an active duty buddy right now is stationed at the LA Air Force Base who's supporting one of our patients. So absolutely can be active duty. But I mean, having a military background is not necessary at all to be a volunteer.
Good. Another question where Patty, Patty, where are you? Do you want to ask your question?
Yes, you mentioned briefly that some of the funding comes from Wounded Warrior Project. And that was my main question, was where does the funding for this program, since it's provided free to the service members? And I presume the stay in Tiverton House is also free, correct?
So Wounded Warrior Project pays a portion of our funding, but we are 100% donor funded. And we receive funding from all over the country.
We have funding. We actually are one of the few programs at UCLA which has received funding from all 50 states. So we've got funders who, kids send us $5. We have people who give us $10 a month from all over. So while Wounded Warrior Project is our largest funder, they're not. We are always fundraising. I'm sure all of you who are involved with nonprofits know how hard it is to raise money. And so we are constantly raising money, but we are grateful for their support and their partnership. Hugely important to us.
Good. Zoana, you had a question?
This program is so comprehensive and such a big piece in the whole pie of comprehensive care for veterans. And I'm just wondering, is there any relationships or any overlap between VA hospital? VA hospital, I know that VA hospital has a great, for example, databases for resources in general, health records and so forth. And I'm just wondering, how much can you tap into that resource and how much help can you actually see between OM and VA? Do they see you as, is there a competition, or is there a wonderful positive partnership, or what is the relationship between these two organizations?
So the VA is a very significant partner to Operation Mend and actually the Warrior Care Network. We have a VA liaison that is in our office, and she is actually employed by the VA, but she works with us to make sure that our warriors are registered at a VA, that they are linked back to their local VA. She gets us their medical records, and we do direct referrals based on what our treatment recommendations are. So we have a very significant relationship with them. And it's interesting because, for those of you familiar with the VA, if you've seen one VA, you've seen one VA. So we, over the years, have developed relationships with individual VAs, and we're really working to strengthen our relationship with our local VAs. We are surrounded by them, as you know, so they have a lot of resources of their own, but we are really working together to make sure that our local veterans know about Operation Mend as well, and we can consider ourselves partners. Although, is there sometimes some thoughts of competition on the VA side? Yeah, a little bit, to be honest.
Understandable. My daughter is working in the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas in VA, and she is telling how much there are some great things going on in VA support, but on the other hand, there are some gaps, and I'm definitely going to tell her about your work. She's right. Yeah, she's a professor in UT Southwestern, but she's working also with VA.
Well, we would definitely appreciate that. We are boots on the ground folks, and so we connect with other boots on the ground folks, and certainly the state of Texas is a big, important state for us, as is the Dallas VA.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe, you had a question? Joe Novikoff?
It would be interesting, Dr. Joe, if you had any particular cases you'd like to tell us about that had interesting or surprising outcomes. It's quite heartwarming to know about your work. And you said that the film you showed was some years in the past. It has what's been happening recently, and is there some case or a couple of cases you'd like to highlight?
Absolutely. You know, what we tell all of our warriors when they come through our door, once a patient, always a patient. So those that were in the video are still our patients, and we communicate with them frequently. And one Colin Rich you saw in the video, I want to highlight Colin because he is one of the warriors that we pretty much did surgical procedure on his entire body, including his brain. When I said that he was shot twice in the head, he was and survived, which was a miracle in and of itself. But he had a seizure disorder, and that was at the time that was tough for the VA to address, was his seizure disorder. We literally did brain surgery, and so over time and recently, what the outcome has been is we did assist him because it had to do with his own spirit, giving him back his life. He had granddaughters that he wasn't interacting with, a spouse he wasn't interacting with. And, you know, one of the hallmarks of post-traumatic stress disorder is avoidance. And he had a substance use disorder issue. And to see him send us memes about how he's doing is just amazing. You know, when I said we did behavioral health screeners, we also do advanced diagnostics for all of our warriors in our intensive treatment program. And our outcomes for post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, and anxiety are clinically significant, meaning that they come to Operation Mend with moderate to severe PTSD, and they leave with mild to no symptoms of post-traumatic stress. And that includes our caregivers. So they are using the skills. Those warriors on the video are absolutely losing the skills, and they attribute their success in integrating back into their life and their families to the skills that they learned in Operation Mend.
I would just add to that, just because it makes a huge impact on me every year. You know, our work it's hard, it's exhausting emotionally, and of course physically. We are so committed to what we're doing, but every year we go to New York, except for last year. We walk in the Veterans Day Parade with a group of our patients and their caregivers and our doctors and staff. And being part of that, you know, I kind of mentioned this to you before about getting people out back into the community. The warriors we take with us, they could never have imagined that they could negotiate a city like New York, let alone walk in a parade or do any of that kind of stuff. So for us to be with them and have them express this awe at now being able to really participate in life, making the friends in New York and experiencing the city and walking in a parade and feeling that appreciation is such a joyful thing for us. It re-energizes us beyond belief to be with them and see them experience something they never thought they you know, a lot of them never left the house. They didn't leave the house anymore. So it's pretty meaningful to us. And I think almost every one of them in New York said that we saved their lives or their marriage. And And it's just, you know, I can't imagine doing more gratifying work alongside. We have such a talented staff team. And as for me, I'm a volunteer with the program, but I'm a full-time volunteer. It's like a gift to me that I get to be part of this change in people's whole outlook. So it's really wonderful for me to get to be part of it with all these great people.
Now, Patty had a follow-up question.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you have peer counseling in your program, you know, past patients with current patients, anything like that, particularly when they go home.
It's a great question. And actually the Wounded Warrior Project has a phenomenal peer mentor program. With our patients, we do have to be careful of HIPAA, and it is a mental health treatment program. So we are very mindful of that confidentiality. So we, at this point, don't have a mentor program that we connect or peer program that we connect. Our intensive treatment program is in a cohort model. And so we encourage them to have that be their buddy, if you will, or peer connection. We reconnect with them at 3, 6, and 12 months. So the whole cohort gets together for a reunion online. So in that way, we encourage it, but we don't have anything formal.
I have a follow-up question on the services for the caregivers, which I think in more cases, a lot of cases are families, the spouses, and then sometimes the kids too. I understand you're starting a program at UCLA or summer camp for the kids of the families. I mean, of course, COVID intervened, but can you talk a bit more about that?
So, you know, we had this idea that we would bring the kids out for with their family, and the warrior would go in our intensive treatment program along with the caregiver, and the kids would come to what we called Camp Mend. And we had a great program all set up. Well, they weren't necessarily interested in spending time learning about PTSD or listening to our physicians talk about post-traumatic stress. But what we did do was we sent them to UCLA Rec Center camp. So, and I feel like, you know, this was Dana's brainchild, so I want to punt this to her so she can give a little bit more detail on that. But needless to say, they were way more involved in just going to summer camp than our idea of, you know, teaching them about post-traumatic stress disorder.
Okay, it was only 1 year where we had some programming like that. It was the first year we did it. We had like half a day was that, and the other half day was fun. The next year we went straight to camp. Everybody went to camp. And the great thing is that our team, we get to take the kids to camp and pick them up every day. Dr. Joe's in the kitchen with Claire, who I work with, making their lunches. And it's great because they don't get the chance to be with military kids anymore. You know, a lot of the parents have been retired a long time or retired before they were born in some cases. And they get to be involved with other kids who understand what it's like to have a parent who's suffering with psychological injuries. And so I love the summer program, and we really missed it last summer. And we are so hopeful we'll have it this summer, but I'm not sure if we'll be able to pull it off. But I can continue to be hopeful that we'll do it this summer. And if not, we'll do it next summer, because for families who don't have caregivers at home that can watch their kids, or for veterans or caregivers who just cannot bear to be separated from their kid, they don't feel comfortable, it's taken away another barrier for them to get treatment. We'll put their kids in camp, and it's great. It's great fun.
Okay, last chance for questions. Anybody else has additional questions? I don't see everybody. No? Okay. Do you have any final comments that you would like to make?
I just thank you for spending the time with us. Feel free to reach out. We're pretty easy to find. Anne-Marie knows exactly where we are. And we'd love to talk to anybody who's interested in learning more or volunteering. So thank you.
We're very appreciative. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you to the two of you spending the time with us, and we'll see you soon. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Helene, back to you.
Sorry, I had to unmute there. Thank you, Anne-Marie, and thank you to our great speakers today. That was such a heartwarming presentation. And I now want to share some exciting news with all of our members. As many of you know, the Faculty Women's Club general meetings are usually held at the Faculty Club or Faculty Center, now Club. And the Faculty Club during the pandemic has been undergoing a major renovation. And we look forward to returning there for our April 5th scholarship dinner. If all goes well, let's hope, cross fingers. So to support the Faculty Club's renovation project, our board has approved a small fundraising effort to help restore one of the fireplaces at the Faculty Club. And the cost of that is about $6,200. But this decision to fundraise for this project reflects the long-standing connection between our two organizations. And to share a brief outline of that history, I asked Joe Knophoff to tell us a little bit about our connection to the Faculty Club. And I also want to acknowledge that we have several members of the Faculty Club leadership with us today. We have Jane Perel, its current president. We have Julie Kwan, the past president and co-chair of their fundraising committee. And she will tell us a little bit about the project, what they've been doing, and their fundraising efforts so far. So if I may, Joe, could you just give us a little rundown of how long we've been partnering with the Faculty Club and how that partnership began?
Sure, I'd be glad to. Thanks, Helene. And a warm hello to everybody, Madam President and the other board members and other members and guests. Well, the Faculty Center, which is what it was called at the time, opened its doors with an open house on February 16th, 1959. Maybe that seems a long time ago, but that was the culmination of a long time dream by its founding organizations, which were the Faculty Women's Club, the Faculty Men's Club, and the Association of Academic Women. Do you know how long the Faculty Women's Club had been yearning by then for a home, a place for meetings or just to gather? I'd like to give you just a brief idea of how many decades Faculty Women's Club spent dreaming of a clubhouse and raising money for one. Making a donation now seems consistent with those efforts. The effort started soon after they first organized, and that was a long time ago. As you likely know, before UCLA was established, there was a 2-year normal school, that means a teacher training school, down on Vermont Avenue. And most of the students, many of the faculty were women, and most of them were hoping that the state would establish a second campus of the University of California in the Southland. And so on March 15th, get this date, 1918, the women of the faculty of the normal school organized the Faculty Women's Club. That was our beginning. They did that so they could join an umbrella organization called the California Women's Legislative Council. That included organizations of women voters in the state who represented something like 80,000 women voters. And the purpose was to lobby the legislature, and in this case, to lobby them to establish a second campus of UC. And by the way, women had been able to vote in California since 1911, but they weren't able to vote in national elections till 1920. So I consider the founding of Faculty Women's Club to be an early example of the political activism possible for women, and we can be proud of that. Anyway, in 1918, such a bill was put before the legislature, and it was passed and signed by the governor in 1919, directing the UC Regents to establish a second campus, which they did. And it was established on the grounds using the old normal school. The head of the normal school became the first head of the second campus, which was then called the Southern Branch. And the name was changed after a few years before UCLA moved to Westwood in 1929. One reads that the first meetings of the Faculty Women's Club were on the Vermont campus in the kindergarten bungalow. And can't you just picture these women sitting on teeny chairs in front of teeny tables and thinking, we need a clubhouse. And from that time, they kept a separate account that they put all the extra funds they could raise into for a building fund. When UCLA moved to Westwood, was there a place for them to meet? No. For a while, they met at the same YWCA near the Vermont campus that they'd been meeting at. Then they started meeting on and near the UCLA campus, like in Kirkhoff Hall and the women's gym. I could name half a dozen other places. There was a Y across the street, across Hillgard from the administration building. But they still longed for a clubhouse that would be a place they could use. And they continued to raise funds for it. Even during World War II, when they were helping the war effort, they would have events that you could go to if you bought a savings bond, a war bond, and this was your patriotic duty. But you would say, instead of paying me back at the end of the term, the money should go to the building fund. The Faculty Men's Club did a huge amount towards getting the regents and the university administrations to favor building a clubhouse here. And in 1949, finally, the then president of UC, Robert Gordon Sproul, was able to persuade the regents that this would be a good idea. And the regents approved it. A plan was approved where the regents would appropriate a certain amount of money. They would loan a certain amount of money to the Faculty Center Association that was going to be established. And the third part of it would be donations raised by the faculty. And 3 founding organizations were authorized to do the fundraising. You can guess what the first one was: Faculty Women's Club, also the Faculty Men's Club, and the Association of University Women. And in the 50s, they did a lot of planning. It took about 10 years between the approval in 49 and the opening in 59, but there was a new faculty center association that was organized, had an elected board of governors with a representative on it from each of the founding organizations. And just as a sidelight, I wanted to point out that in 1975, the newly organized Emeriti Association was invited to send a representative to the Board of Governors to replace the 2 representatives from the Faculty Men's Club and the Association of Academic Women which had ceased to exist. So I think we can be sort of proud that the Faculty Women's Club is the only one of the 3 original founding organizations that still exists today, more than 100 years later. Did you know that when the Faculty Center was first opened, there was a room assigned to each of the 3 founding organizations to meet or just use as a lounge? And we also had a storage cabinet in which we could keep the silver platters and the silver tea service and silver coffee service and china and spoons that we've been lugging from one venue to another over all those years since 1929. And now they could be used in the Faculty Center. But the room and the storage cabinet are no longer part of our faculty club amenities. And I think maybe that would make it especially pleasant and appropriate to make a donation on behalf of Faculty Women's Club in a way that attaches our name to a fireplace, which is really a symbol of warmth and hospitality. And so we're hoping that you'll be interested in doing that. And I think Julia is going to tell us more.
Well, I was fascinated by Joe's history, some of which I had never heard about, especially the silver tea sets. It's really, really wonderful to hear that. I'm hoping that more people from the faculty club can do the recording to hear this particular part. It's absolutely wonderful. I do have some slides to talk about, if they can be put up. First of all, I'd like to say that the building, as you may know, is not young. It was, I think it was 1960, early 60s that it came about. And it's a mid-century modern building. So it has all the issues of a mid-century modern building that had not been well maintained. You may know that the roof leaked horribly. We had, it needed a big overhaul. So what's happened with fundraising? First of all, the university committed $10 million for seismic and infrastructure upgrades, which was absolutely incredible. The second huge thing that happened was Sherry and Don Morrison, 2 faculty members, gave $1 million for the interior. So the university was committed to things you can't see, but Sherry and Don started the process for things you can see. But what I really want you to know about is a Faculty Women's Club member, Victoria Steele, has secured both actual donations and pledges for $1.2 million to increase the interior. It's incredible, and I think the Faculty Women's Club should take a lot of pride in Vicky's efforts. Not to say that there are not a lot of other people who have given individual money. Vicky was a major donor on her own, but I can also point to people who are on this call: Mariana Fifi, Barbara Crandall, Marjorie Friedlander, Rolina Burst, and Joe Knophoff, and there may be others, but I just don't know about you yet. We are in the midst of preparing a donor list for the website where we will list all of our donors over the last 10 years. So at some point, I hope somebody can go through and identify each and every one that's a Faculty Women's Club member. So this money, it sounds like an awful lot of money, and I have to tell you, it's just about all spent. One of the things you can't see include a brand new roof. We never would have made it through the rain that we had recently without our new roof. We have a new roof, we have new gutters, we have a new heating and air conditioning system. I don't know if many of you have been in the faculty club in the winter time, but we had a board meeting once where we were all huddled around in caps and wool scarves because it was so cold in the room. So we have a whole new system there. We have a new fire detection system. Since it is a wood structure building, it's one that sniffs the air rather than pouring down water. We have a new energy use system so that the use of power and lighting and so forth and heating in each room can be monitored independently. Also, facilities can tell right away if there's a problem and can fix it. We've tended for termites, and we have a new front trellis at the front of the building. The project manager at one point in time touched the wood structure there and it crumbled. So all of that's been replaced. In the kitchen, we have a new grease interceptor, we have new sewer lines, and the sewer lines are really interesting because when they had to build the grease interceptor, they had to go through the ground and they had to destroy the existing restrooms back there. So they had to replace the restrooms, and the south restrooms are absolutely gorgeous. They are, I know we've had questions or requests for copper or for coral paint. Joe, you might hear that. I know Joe wanted coral paint at one time. Women's restroom now has coral paint in the south restroom. The Sequoia patio also had to be dug up for this grease interceptor, and that's been totally replaced as well. We have new landscaping. We have a new plan for the patio trellis so that there will be greenery again over the outside patio. And the room reservations has been going on. So the Morrison room, which used to be the California room, is currently underway, that renovation. The main dining room is really finished right now with new carpet, new painting, and it looks absolutely wonderful and bright. The Cypress Bar and Lounge has been totally renovated. It's going to be a great place to get together for meetings, for socializing and the like. And we also took care of the staff because the staff offices have been renovated and they will have all new furniture. I encourage you to attend the Faculty Club General Membership meeting, which will be this Thursday, and where you can see before, during, and after pictures of the whole thing. We are still seeking funding for north restrooms, doors and windows, but that will require probably some agency that, some foundation or something like that. It's not the kind of thing that people want to have their individual donors really want to do that kind of thing. There are other kinds of things as well. Next slide, please. So what the particular opportunity for the Faculty Women's Club is to fund a fireplace. The fire marshal many years ago said we could not burn wood in our fireplaces. So the fireplaces have been dead for a long time. He also does not want any burning, and we don't want to have any electrical use in the, because that would just be a huge electrical installation issue. We have identified fireplace inserts that cost $62.50 that will again bring back the warmth of a fireplace. And we're grateful that the Faculty Women's Club leadership has expressed interest in doing that. I should tell you that the Faculty Club is fronting the cost for those. So when you go into the Faculty Club, when we reopen, the fireplaces will work, but we're hoping to have a replacement. We didn't want to open up the Faculty Club and have the fireplaces still dead. We really wanted them to work. And so I'm wondering if you'll join us in this opportunity. I personally have pledged $500 to go towards this effort. I think it's a really important one, and I think it's a wonderful example of Faculty Women's Club contributions. Any questions for me?
Yes. Is there going to be a special mailing so that people can make donations? Something.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So what I was going to follow up with was, how does one make a contribution through the Faculty Women's Club in honor of this effort? And so we will be sending out by email instructions exactly on how to make that donation as part of our fundraising effort for the Faculty Women's Club to the new Faculty Club fireplaces. And we will send you specific instructions about how to do that, whether it's online or whether it's by mail. You will be receiving the information about that. We decided, I felt like maybe it would not be best to share that on this Zoom call because it would be fleeting and brief, and we might just not get all the information quickly enough. So that will go out in the next few days to all of you, but we hope that you will be as enthusiastic as we are and the board was in approving this fundraising effort, and it will be through the UCLA Foundation. So your contributions will be directed to a special fund that we will be establishing at the UCLA Foundation for this purpose. And so you do know what our goal is, and if we are so fortunate as to exceed our goal, we can only hope that that might be the case. And we'll look forward to visiting the faculty club and seeing the new fireplaces in working order. And thank you, Julie, for your great presentation. And thank you to the leadership of the faculty club who we've been working with to make this effort possible. I now also wanted to let Christine Werlenik, who is the Senior Director at the Alumni Affairs Office and who supports our work, give a little update on what has been happening in her office, because we have a new announcement, I think, from Christine.
We do have a new announcement. I'm very excited to introduce you to Jeanette Palacios, who started around 2 months ago, but with the holidays, you know, has worked for maybe a month. She'll be she's director of Affinity Network, so she's your new liaison, and you'll be going to her for different things that your group wants to do. But of course, I'm still around if you have any questions or need more, and she knows that she can reach me at all times. Jeanette used to work for the city of Alhambra. She can tell you what that title was. She did a lot of things there, but she also graduated. She has 2 degrees from UCLA. So she's a double Bruin and has been involved in many, many, many networks. She is one of the founders of the Southeast Network, founder and former president of the Beachside Network, which is the Long Beach area. She's a former president of the Latino Alumni Association. She's a member of Gold Shield, a few others that I can't mention because they're secret groups. Did I miss anything else, Jeanette? She's very active Bruin, and I know she'll be great with this group, and we're very excited to have her on board.
And I see a lot of familiar faces. I see Jane, and of course I met Anne Marie, Joe from Gold Shield. So I look forward to working with you. And I guess, how many networks are there? 15 to 16. I look forward to meeting a lot of you.
Welcome, Jeanette. And we all had a special fondness for Justin Seiler, your predecessor. And we know that we will have a wonderful connection to you as well as we work together on our projects and our involvement with the university. So thank you for joining us today. And then my next announcement is I want you to mark your calendars for March 15th, which is our next general meeting. It will be by Zoom, and it will be our annual business meeting. And in addition to that business meeting, we also will have a featured speaker from the Friends of the Robinson Gardens in Beverly Hills. And they will be telling us what they've been up to, both during the pandemic and before, and hopefully future plans. Thank you, Anne Marie, for organizing that great program as well. And then I do again want to make a special reminder about the April 5th scholarship dinner. Now, that is our plan, that we will be having the scholarship dinner at the Faculty Center in person if situations permit. We are crossing our fingers and hoping that we will be able to reunite in person for this very special evening. It's always been a special event for the Faculty Women's Club. And so we will keep you posted on that development, but please put that evening on your calendars, April 5th at 5:30. And we will look forward to hopefully all being there together. And that's about all the announcements I have. So thank you all for participating today. Thank you for joining. You will be hearing from us soon. And thank you to our great speakers.